XR 会議2020にご参加いただきありがとうございます。XR 会議2020はダイヤモンドスポンサー、シンク&センス、他スポンサー各社の提供でお送りしています。セッション開始まで今しばらくお待ちください。まもなく次のセッションが始まります。コメントは配信画面右のコメント欄からお寄せください。また、スクリーンショットや SNS への投稿に関しては、サイト上部の記載をご確認ください。時間となりましたので、セッションを始めます。コメントは配信画面右のコメント欄からお寄せください。また、スクリーンショットや SNS への投稿に関しては、サイト上部の記載をご確認ください。それではどうぞ。
Helsinki, the Finnish capital. We are here to discuss today case virtual Helsinki and all the possibilities that VR has on a city level, be it in event production, city marketing, tourism, and all kinds of future possibilities in urban development. My name is Hanna Harris. I am the Chief Design Officer at the City of Helsinki. And with me here today, I have Laura Olin from the leading VR studio in Europe, Zoan. Hello, Laura.
Hello, and hello. Nice to be here.
We have just watched this lovely clip from Virtual Helsinki, which is of a concert that took place in this amazing 3D virtual environment. Laura, tell us a little bit, what did we just see?
Yeah, so that was basically a clip from the last day of April this year. You know, that was the time when the COVID had just hit the worst and everyone was really depressed and at home. And traditionally, this May Day is a very big party day, like a spring party in Finland. And sort of to encourage people to stay at home and watch the concert. So that was the whole idea with that people would celebrate at home instead of going to the streets. And we at Zoan, with support from the City of Helsinki and some other sponsors, created that concert in like 4 weeks with the most popular band in Finland, which is JVG. And they are rapping in Finnish, so you probably won't understand about it. And that was a huge success. It was like we had 700,000 live viewers, and then during those 2 days when the concert was on YouTube, so that was seen like 1.4 million times in total. And if you think that there are like 5.5 million people in Finland, so that is quite a lot of people who saw that.
That's a lot of people, and here in Helsinki, for the context, we have under 1 million, so that has been a very, very big figure. Now, this concert took place, the setting where it happens is Senate Square, which is, of course, a landmark place here in the city centre, which is a very historically important place. There's one of our famous architects, Engel, has designed many of the buildings around there. You have the main church, you have the main university buildings, you have government offices, and it's a spot which is close to the harbour and very visited by people who come to the city centre. How were you able to place JVG on this square?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, considering that we only had less than a month time. So, of course, what was a great asset was that we had already built this Senate Square as a part of the bigger virtual Helsinki project in 2018. So we had a very high quality 3D model of the Senate Square that was in Unreal Engine. And basically what we did was that we had a virtual studio with green screens and all like professional sound camera equipment. So we had the band first rehearsing for a few days and then giving the actual concert live. And then we were recording the band on green screen, then taking the footage to Unreal Engine and sort of combining the band to the stage, which we had built in this virtual Senate Square. And of course, we applied a lot of different kind of virtual effects so that each song had a different kind of theme that we did together with the creatives of the band. And then we just live streamed it on May Day Eve, live in the evening from the place where we were recording it. And then the fun part was also that it wasn't only like a video you could watch, but what the audience would do is that they would use their own mobile phones or computers, pick an avatar, and then they could interact with the avatar. So basically you could like wave or dance or something like that. And then 1,000 of the most active avatars were actually taken live to this virtual Senate Square. And then the band also had like a huge screen in front of them where they could see the audience. So that was how we wanted to sort of sort of diminish the gap between the band and the audience. So really like give the feeling for people that they were in virtual Senate Square on May Day Eve dancing together with this JVG band.
And fantastic, and of course the band could get the same feeling and yet remain safe in this time that we are living now.
Exactly.
Of course, for us as the city, one of the sort of leading ideas behind why we wanted to do this is to remain responsible, and we have this responsibility, of course, for our residents, and then at the same time be able to do something cutting edge and use digital platforms in a way that might sort of enhance this city. In this instance, of course, the May Day in Finland is, as you were, Laura, saying, culturally a very important moment. We've had the long winter, it's been dark, and kind of the city comes alive.
Yeah, maybe it's a bit like Hanami in Japan, like people go out. And,
so everybody wants to sort of have that moment to be together and go onto the streets and say that, okay, summer is coming and we are going to enjoy the city, and there are picnics and parties and all sorts. And here, of course, what you were able to do with the band offered some of that feeling that people were at home. They had an incentive or reason to, stay safe at home, but yet they got some feeling of being together and sharing a moment with other people of Helsinki.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's super great that Helsinki has, of course, the huge emphasis on digital services, but also like this attitude that, I mean, let's not only put policemen on the street to tell people to go home, but really like organize something super cool so that people actually want to stay at home in these times.
Exactly. And then, I mean, this square itself is interesting because it has, throughout the history of Helsinki being a spot where there's been like important moments have happened, that there have been also there have been big sort of demonstrations, there have been big concerts that are kind of historically important moments, and this square itself, over these months that we have now experienced, has become kind of one center of action again, starting from this concert. So we followed then from this one came another concert that was staged also on Senate Square on virtual Helsinki. So soon after May, on June 12th precisely, is Helsinki's birthday, Helsinki Day, and where again normally we organize all sorts of events, and again we were able to do things around that day on the virtual platform. Laura, tell a little bit about that. Where did the first experience lead to?
Yeah, so basically, like for us at Zoan, we had already discussed before that we would like to do virtual concerts, and of course this was a great opportunity to pilot this idea. And then based on that experience with JVG and everything went well, so we agreed with another Finnish artist called Alma, who is starting her international career, so that we would have a Alma album release concert, and that's where we actually, Alma had this idea of using like 3 different environments, of which there was also Helsinki, but that was modified in a very much Alma way, so it looked a bit like, to me, like a dark nightmare or something like that. So it was totally different from what we had seen before. And then we created some additional environments like a magic forest and a desert. And then Alma would do exactly the same thing, sing on green screen, and then we would pick her and the band to the virtual setup and then live stream it to people at home.
Alma, of course, is, as you said, she's got quite a following internationally as well. What kind of feedback have you had of these events? And they have been highly followed, and of course have received quite a lot of attention as well.
Yes, well, naturally, it's been great feedback both from like industry. It has opened us doors to many organized new concerts. We are currently working with an international festival that will be out later this year. But then also maybe the best feedback has actually come from like just normal Finnish people who have been like that, oh my God, you really saved our May Day, that this was so great. We could celebrate at home with the kids. And, so that's been totally fantastic.
That is, of course, us working for the city, this is something that we are constantly trying to balance, that how can we keep things safe here and do sort of a balance of somehow keeping urban life and those things that we love about cities somehow running still, and then at the same time make sure that we are being as safe as we possibly can. And of course you mentioned that Alma sort of took these things to a more creative direction, perhaps, that she made this space sort of hers. She put her stamp on it. And of course, the creative industries or the sort of arts sector in general, of course, has suffered hugely from this current situation. And this, of course, is very much a problem that all cities around the world are struggling with at the moment. That they have concert venues, different events concentrated in cities, and how can they keep open? To what extent can they be open, or what else can perhaps be offered? So here there has been a sort of a development of stuff that has at the same time really had a flavor of Helsinki, but at the same time it has offered something that's specific to the artist in question.
Yeah, and it doesn't just, it's not about the concerts only. We are currently working with, for instance, congress venues and companies who organize like business-to-business events and things like that. Because I believe that the world has changed permanently in that way, that even though I hope that somewhere in the near future we will be able to start traveling normally again, but now that many people have gotten used to the idea that, I can still be a part of this seminar even though I am on the other side of the world, like exactly what we are doing right here, right now. So there will be a need for these kind of hybrid events. And I also believe that because there have been many, many other successful concerts, like on Fortnite, for example, that there will definitely be also like a new product called this virtual concert. That can probably be something that the artist will add as a part of their promotion tour, that in addition to having this world tour, they will have one big virtual concert for people around the world.
So in a way, it is a product that adds to the whole portfolio that
I think
offer.
So. I think so. Yeah. And then when we, of course, we at Zoan, we usually work a lot with virtual reality headsets. Our main focus is working with 3D models, with Unreal, different sort of headsets, and sort of this Corona thing it forced us to do the change that we need to find new ways to distribute what we can do, because people don't have generally headsets at home here in Finland, at least. And then also in some showrooms, they are seen as a hygiene risk, so that there needs to be other ways. And for us, that has been video screens and that type of things, basically delivering 2D material that is made in Unreal Engine. That's basically what we have been doing.
So on that brings me onto the thought that in virtual Helsinki, what's special about it? What would you say that the features that are there, how it's run, that has enabled you to do this?
Yeah, so the background, we've mentioned virtual Helsinki many times, but it really started already many, many years ago. Back in the days, Zoan was very focused on modeling real estate, and virtual Helsinki also started somewhere around 2015, just modeling some parts of the city. But the main idea has been all the time that somewhere in the future there will be a need for this virtual city where people can meet each other in a virtual way without having to travel from one place to another. And we did it by ourselves for a couple of years, and then trying to find a way to collaborate with Helsinki. And then in 2018, we started officially collaborating with Helsinki and Helsinki Marketing, which is the marketing company of the city. And what we decided to do then was to build this a very high fidelity Helsinki, and we would focus on three parts of it. Firstly, this Senat Square, as mentioned. Secondly, the island of Lonna, which is a very beautiful island with sauna and restaurant right very close to the city center. And then the home of Alvar Aalto, who is a very famous architect over here. So that is what we did. And we made it for the virtual reality headsets. And that was very, very popular. And we used it, and Helsinki has used it in many shows and fairs and events. And then we also we got the Unreal Experience Award second prize in 2019, and that was like a huge publicity boost for us. And Unreal wanted to use it in demo purposes all around the world in different kind of shows. So in that way, like the virtual Helsinki became a phenomenon. And of course, well, I think that you can maybe explain a little bit more about why is Helsinki working with virtual Helsinki? What's the idea there?
I mean, it's interesting, as you said. We have now some sites there, and it's kind of growing. And the ones you mentioned. So the Senate Square was the one that we started with, which is this, it kind of serves several functions. If you come to Helsinki, most people who come, they will visit that square. It's bang in the city center. They go into the church. There's this very majestic feel. There's kind of this historical city center landmark architecture feel about it. But then you have these nice urban experiences like the little island Lonna. You take a ferry from the city center, 15 minutes on a boat, you go to this lovely little island. There's a small kind of actually newish wood architecture, little sauna there by again one of the newer good architecture offices, OPAA here. You eat a good dinner, you come back, you have this intimate sort of island hopping experience going there. Or then of course one of the sort of in the area of cultural tourism, one of the big things that people do here is they come and see architecture or design, and Alvar Aalto, of course, is like our best known one, actually one of the best known Finns around the world.
I actually heard
yes,
that most of the visitors in Alvar Aalto's homes are from Japan, not from Finland. So that's quite amazing.
So here in Helsinki there is Aalto's home and studio, which are just slightly outside of the city center, and you can visit them. Of course, they are, even without the pandemic, they are smallish sites, and there is certain limits how many people can go at once, and these kind of, they are like living museums that you would go into. And of course, for us, and of course for all the bodies that are looking after, let's say in this case, the Aalto heritage, it's a big thing that we can offer some other interface, if you wish, to look at this work or be in contact with it. And this is a very interesting case, this actually this Aalto home. If you think there are, architecture students everywhere in the world will study these buildings, and they have to find ways to, delve deeper and feel the space or look at the materials, or perhaps people who are interested in it's there's everything like running from furniture to stuff that in there that some of it is still in production and you can sort of buy it elsewhere. So there are of course future opportunities into how you might interact with such a place if you visit it one day perhaps live, but then also study it in advance, or then dig deeper into your experience after you've perhaps visited it. So these kind of spots for us of course have many opportunities and layers how you might interact with them and through the platform offered by things such as Virtual Helsinki.
And I think that it's probably not a secret that Aalto Home has been offering some like sort of light virtual tours for especially Japanese tourists during the pandemic. But now we are actually discussing with them that would it be possible to really offer this real like 3D based virtual visit somehow for the visitors, because we do believe that there's a good potential and it would be a totally sort of new type of experience for people.
Yeah, and it is like it's a little jewel, the whole place. So it's an amazing opportunity to sort of explore it and dig into the details and have a look. But of course, the one thing that is which is relevant here is the idea that where is the tourism industry growing, and what is travel and what is sustainable travel in the future. And as a city, we are very committed to thinking about this. So that means that there are, of course, climate issues on the one hand, and then all things digital affect this. And then, of course, there's the pandemic on top of all of that. But that how and why do people travel in the future? And when they do, how do they what do they get from their destinations? Why do they go where they go? And how do they interact with the destinations, perhaps in advance at home? What sort of communities are built around that? And what sort of options do they have to perhaps learn something or engage in some other ways, perhaps after their visit still? So as a city, we are very interested in these ideas and committed to developing ideas of sustainable tourism, and how we can perhaps use platforms such as Virtual Helsinki to help us in that work.
Yeah. Well, I know we've been working with a couple of projects already that are like web-based, this virtual Amos Rex museum exhibition, and then there was Helsinki Design Week also this year, where we basically used the virtual Helsinki that we had and converted it for something that can be like experienced just online using a normal web browser. So, and there seems to be a lot of demand for that kind of things because, as I said, people don't have like virtual reality headsets at home, and that's like totally fine. But in the long run, we also see that sort of cities and places should be thinking about this sort of like a metaverse, thinking, where I mean that currently, like most of the teenagers, where they spend their time is actually in 3D media in places like Minecraft or Fortnite. And I believe that when these people grow up, they will be looking for similar kind of experiences. And then it doesn't necessarily have to be like a game as such, but it could also be, for instance, a city where you can decide that, do I want to experience this in history? Do I want to see the future? Do I want to dig deeper in Alvarado's world, or what do I want to do? And then you can do purchases there. You have your own avatars, all of that kind of things. And that is something, well, already that we have been discussing with Helsinki, and I think that that's really the way to go. And also one big thing is that then the people can actually contribute to the city. So it's not only like consuming content, but you can also like sort of leave your mark there.
Leave your footprint. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, this idea of being part, I mean, if we, in Helsinki, we like to think of like three Ds, 3D and 3Ds. But yeah. So design obviously being one of them, and here we can obviously see that there is a product or platform that has very, very high spec visuals and is really the design is there, and of course digital. But then third, perhaps being dialogue. So how we can even better in the future work and talk and be in interaction with our residents and different communities and companies and who reside here or visit here, be they from Finland or from elsewhere in the world. And of course, I mean, you mentioned things such as events or how that might happen. Helsinki is we have a lot of festivals and events here and really good ones. You mentioned Helsinki Design Week, obviously, which is the leading design festival in all of the Nordic area. It happens in September. And as a city, we work closely with this event. And as said, this year, despite, of course, a very challenging situation, Helsinki Design Week did take place in a slightly different format to normal. But because here we have an event that is not, packing thousands of people into one spot for 2 days, but it is already kind of
spread out.
Exactly. The kind of, by definition, it is many things that happen around the city, and it is a kind of a sort of amplifying that network of design activity and making it visible during that time. And this year we were able to, together with Zoan, work on a specific street and aspect, and then commission some creatives to do work around that. So it was one kind of offering during the week, of which there were other things that took place here, sort of in flesh in Helsinki, or things like we have. You mentioned Amos Rex Museum, which is one of the newer ones that's been open, coming up to 2 years soon, and which is, again, it's been like a very active spot in the city centre. Again, one of our like best contemporary architecture studios, JKMM, who have the museum space itself is predominantly underground, and there's a fantastic public square above it that has become hugely like a really like a spot in there.
It's like a playground. People slide from those little windows.
Fantastic spot, and how we have future plans for a new architecture and design museum here in Helsinki, and how we can work with these sort of destinations or cultural destinations, at what other offerings can be built around them, as you said. And then of course in the more kind of business to business sector, that there's stuff happening, that there was some pilots done already this year around things like the digital built environment, of course, which will be a big thing.
And there the idea was that was a very like ambitious pilot for the professionals of built environment, basically. And there you could we offered the audience a possibility to visit this 3D based illusion city, which was basically a combination of Helsinki and our southern neighbor Tallinn, and you could really have like the feeling, even if you were just on your computer and you were going forward and backward and listening to the keynote. So you clearly had this sense of presence, like being there. So that was, at least for me also, that was something I had never experienced in an event.
Taking on that, I was thinking about the being there, because one thing that that's really interesting, what you mentioned, that kind of that okay, you can of course stage something that we hear now in Helsinki, but you can perhaps look into the future. We'll talk about that in a minute, but then of course also look into the past. And you've been doing some really interesting work actually in Japan, in Tokyo, in the Ginza area at the moment, with which will offer a possibility to visit Ginza in 3 different eras. So also looking into the past, what a particular street in Ginza looked like, for instance, during the Edo times.
Yeah.
So what's going on there?
Well, we are there working with a Japanese client, and it's still like in progress. So I don't know how much I can tell, but yeah, that's exactly what we are doing, like 3 different eras. I've been to Ginza a couple of times, and it's been most like shopping streets and all of that. So it feels very fascinating to see the history, and I hope we can tell more about that in the future. But definitely, like what we have done also in Helsinki, we've had these historical virtual reality like tours as well. Like we have one for schools where you can visit the Senate Square in 1830. So like, basically almost 200 years ago, when it was nothing, but there were some cows and some houses over there. So that's definitely a powerful tool also for really experiencing history and how spaces change and all of that.
And of course, that same offering, which I find very interesting. I mean, looking at, how Helsinki is built or designed, and any city, of course, is constantly changing a little bit. And there are spots that, of course, many things affect what goes on and what happens. But then there are things that the city itself, as a city organization, of course, is in charge of. Or we're looking at, entirely new residential areas. We have several here in Helsinki, even close to the city center, old harbor areas that are coming up, or you might have, of course, things where something that already exists is slightly modified, or some, then let's say a landmark new public building that will be coming up, and how people might be able to interact. For me, this is a kind of a big possibility about how, as a city, we can offer even better ways of, first of all, of course, seeing or experiencing really in movement and in that space at what perhaps is proposed.
By using virtual reality.
Exactly, what perhaps is proposed for some area. What do you think about those kind of possibilities?
Well, that's basically, that's sort of like already 5 years ago, like that was what we were like, utilize this opportunity.
Yeah.
But back then, of course, the city organization maybe wasn't ready for that, but it's so good to hear that you intend to utilize these things, because that also like, well, you know how hard it is unless you are an architecture professional. If you see a drawing and then try to imagine how it will look, I mean, it's impossible. But then when you can see it all and you can decide that I actually like this one better, I think that will be also a good way to engage the city people to really like be a part of this process and city planning, because I've understood that that's also one of the things you really want.
Yeah, and of course, then of course it's also possible to look at different scenarios. Okay, this option would work like this, and this one might be this, or to look at things during different times, and you know, the light changes, the seasons change, or things around change, and this, of course, I mean, we are seriously looking at how to have an even better kind of constant dialogue with our different people, that how we can make the city, you know, as good as it can, so that it functions well, but it is a fantastic livable place, and we can make it as good as we possibly can. And I think they also you said that, of course, the different sort of groups, if you start zooming into that, at who might we be able to talk to, and how you mentioned, for instance, the you know, young people who, of course, will be also expecting slightly perhaps different sort of first of all, platforms and environments to look at what's happening. But for me, that's a very important thing, that we can look at, you know, the young people and of course the future residents or visitors of Helsinki, and work with them so that they can feel part of what is becoming of this city.
Yeah, maybe Helsinki could be like a 3D game where you can design stuff and suggest things, and there will be actual, you know, officials who will then take a look at this and say that, hey, actually that might work.
And of course, kind of enable those spots that it's easier for, you know, the people of Helsinki also to understand how the planning system perhaps works, or what kind of, you know, some of the timescales are of course really long and some are shorter, that it's easier to understand that what's going on there, and you know, how I might be part of this, and what does it sort of affect, and what happens then. Because of course it's in everybody's interest to have a really great Helsinki for everyone.
Yeah.
For as many as possible here. I think we have covered quite a lot of topics. Is there something that you for you that has been really like a major learning in, you know, building virtual Helsinki, for instance, something that's very dear to Zoan, that you think that this is like the heart and soul of this thing, and this is something we need to cherish and take further?
Yeah, well, I think, of course, one great thing is that we can do and build Helsinki like together with, first of all, the city of Helsinki. But now, as we want to build it further, so it's been great that we have been able to start talking with companies that operate in Helsinki, inside, you know, traveling industry, events, even like retail, and talk directly with them that, okay, could your business be a part of this virtual experience, and how could we like together make this like a bigger and better virtual Helsinki? And of course, we are also waiting for ways to sort of distribute virtual Helsinki in a better way. It would be fantastic that people around the world would have the VR headsets and they could really like meet there. We are not quite there yet, but I believe that we are really going that way. And also, I just want to encourage everyone who's interested in virtual reality and these kind of things to really like be a part of that. And also, like in Japan, if there are people who are interested in sort of visiting virtual Helsinki, so it would be nice to figure out ways how to make it possible. Because I believe last time I was in Japan and we were showing virtual Helsinki, so people were so excited about this. I was just amazed. Like, you put the headset on and then people would be, oh, sugoi! And that was just so fantastic.
That's wonderful. So
yeah, but really, that's the best feedback you can get.
Exactly, so that you would really, and like you said, where this kind of started from the May Day celebrations at that moment, when really cities everywhere in the world, it was a very bad time of the pandemic, and we were really struggling as a city to working hard to find those ways that what can we do so that not everything is cancelled and we can yet offer something for our people and some moments of joy and in a safe way. So hearing those kind of things, that they were like, my May Day was saved, that we were able to do something with the kids, and there was some laughter and hope in there. So that's of course really great to hear. And now, I mean, yes, I mean, I would encourage, of course, anybody and everybody now to visit Senate Square, to visit the lovely Lonna Island. For me, as a Helsinki resident, the sea is a key feature, and hopping on that little boat and going to the little island is, of course, a moment to really keep that there. And of course, the Aalto's place, which is again a little gem, and you will discover new things at this point.
Let's see what we can figure out.
Exactly. And cities are complex places with many layers, and we're working with the physical realities of them, and we have at hand options, platforms that we can engage with and work with to make our futures even more beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's time to step to the hybrid era also in cities.
Great. Thank you very much for everyone listening to us today, and we hope to see you in Helsinki and in virtual Helsinki.
Arigato.
Arigato.